Hello everyone, welcome to Edubbey Global Solution. Today we'll be discussing trade unions. What do we know by trade union and what do we mean by trade union? Have you heard this before? Let's go into our slide. Let's know what trade union is. Now we move to the definition of trade unions itself. Trade unions are associations of workers formed to represent their interests and improve their pay and working condition. How do we mean? Trade union, they are the group of people coming together to fight for their common interest. Just simple as that. Now let us move to the next slide where I think we have one past question here, which related to the definition of trade union. What is a trade union? Now, according to our definition, now what do we mean by trade union? Now let us check the options. An organization of employers from an industry, is that so? An area where there are no barriers to trade, an organization that represents the interests of workers, or a business organization in which all workers share ownership. Of course, an organization that represents the interests of workers should be our answer according to our definition to trade union. Moving to the next slide, we have the role of trade unions in the economy. What are the role of the trade union? That is, what are the role of the association that fight for their interests? Now, they negotiate and seek protection on behalf of their members on what? On wages. That is their pay, their salary. And the second one, for job security, they fight for job security also to secure good job. Now we have working hours and working conditions also. They also allow workers to bargain more effectively through collective bargaining, that is representative of workers negotiating with employers association, that is that collective bargaining is to demanding higher wages under the threat of strike action. Now we have they also influencing government policy. Now let us move to the next slide. Let us move to the next slide. We also have past question here. I love that. A German car manufacturer builds a factory in India. A group of Indian workers at the factory join a trade union. Wow. What would this trade union be expected to do for the workers? I think this past question is mentioning about the role of trade union. Now let us check our options. It protects the workers against unfair dismissal by the employer, encourage the workers to bargain individually with the employer. Did they bargain individually? No. Negotiate with the German government on tariff reduction for India produced car. That's not so. Promote an advertising campaign to sell more Indian cars. Our answer here is they protect the worker against unfair dismissal by the employer. Now let us move to the next slide. Moving to the next slide, we have those factors affecting the strength of trade union. What are the factors that affect the strength of trade union? One, we have a high number of members. Of course, if you have a high number of members as a union, they will have the more fund to finance the activities that is they are collecting, bargaining to demand for what they want. Now we also have favorable government legislation. Of course, the union will also be in a stronger position if law allow trade union to take industrial action. Now we also have a high level of skill. Of course, union representing skilled workers are also in a relatively strong position to bargain. That is it, because it will be difficult for them to train unskilled worker at that time. Now we also have a high level of economic activities. If output and income in the country are increases, of course, trade union may also request for higher pay and better working condition through the bargaining. Now we move to the next past question here. This one is talking about what? Let us check. A national trade union wishes to increase the wages of its members. without reducing the numbers employed. Which factor will help the union to do this? Now, which factor do you think can help the union to increase demand for increase in wages of its member without reducing the number employed? Let us check our options. The demand for the industry product is increasing. The union workers have low level skill. Is that so? No. Now we have the industry consists of a smaller number of well-organized employers. The workers' wage are the largest cost of industry. Of course, when the demand for industry products is increased, they will demand for increasing wages at the same time. Now we move to the next slide. Moving to the next slide, we have the advantages of trade union activities to the firm and workers and to the government. Now to the firm, how does trade union benefit the firms and workers? We have they provide useful channel of communication between the employers. Of course, it provides useful communication between the employers. It is cheaper to negotiate with workers as a group than individual. Of course, it is cheaper because individual may not have the skill and the willingness to negotiate with his or her worker. So it will be good if they do this thing as a group. Now, it also encourages workers to engage in education and training, which raise productivity and also improve health and safety. Of course, it's also benefits non-unionized labor, as the improvement will also apply to non-members also. Now move to the government. Trade union benefits the economic as union fight for wages. It also raises workers' living standards, which usually reduce economic inequality. Now we move to the next slide. We have past question here also. What is the benefit to a worker of being a member of a trade union? Of course, we just discussed this now. What do you think is the benefit to a worker being a member of a trade union? We have guaranteed employment, access to advice, payment of subscription, and opportunity to work extra hours. Of course, it's access to advice. Now we move to the next slide. Where we have the disadvantages of trade union activities to the firm and workers and also to the government. As we have the advantages of trade union, we also have the disadvantages of trade union. Now to the firms and workers. Firms can be harmed by industrial action undertaken by trade union. Of course, it can harm them when they are demanding under threat of strike action. Now it can lead to a waste of productive time during strike. Of course, it can also lead to a waste of productive. Now it also creates unemployment to individual and it also creates lethargic attitude in employee, that is the lack of energy or laziness. Now to government, we have wage inflation. Of course, wage inflation occur when union are bargaining, that is they are demanding for higher wages above the rate of inflation. Now let us move to the next slide. We have past question here also. This one related to the function of trade union. We have just discussed that. Now which task is not a function of a trade union here? What do you think is not the function of a trade union among these options? Deciding on the level of a national minimum wage, negotiating working hours and condition of work. Of course, they did that. Agreeing the minimum number to be employed on a particular job, providing legal advice on unfair dismissal. What do you think should be our answer here? Of course, trade union did not decide on the level of national minimum wage because national minimum wage is fixed by government to the whole economy. That is the correct answer. We move to the next past question here also. When is a trade union likely to have more power to increase its members' wages. Now, when did you think trade union are likely to have more power to increase its members' wages? Okay, when output is increased, is that so? When import increases, when labor supply is increases, or when unemployment is increased? Of course, it is when output is increases, that is when the trade union will have more power to increase its member wages. That is when trade union will have the power to increase its members' wages. Now we move to the next past question here. What is most likely to help a trade union claim for wage increase in an industry? This serves as a good question also. Now, what is most likely to help a trade union? That is, what is likely to help them to claim for increase in wages? Now we have an increase in the number of workers. Is that so? A decrease in the price of the clothes substitute for the product, a decrease in the qualification needed for the job, or an increase in the profit of the industry. Of course, if there is an increase in the profit of the industry, the trade union may likely to claim for increase in wages. That is good, it's correct. Now, this will be the end of our class for today. Stay tuned to our website www.edubbey.com. See you in the next class.